On the 19th of August, I was informed I'd be sent down with a coffin. It had been a decade since the Challenger had discovered the bottom of the Earth. Those more educated than I had crafted a solution to someday see it. The fruit of their labor was a capsule just large enough so that one man may sit within it. Most of our crew called it the Iron Maiden with regards to its shape. I felt it was a coffin. The water pressure was far too high for the metal-jointed breathing pipe to also host a sound tube, so I was stuck with an old-fashioned lifeline tied to a copper bell, like a cholera corpse. The boat was the first thing to vanish, then any signs of life, and finally, even light left me. It would have been strangely peaceful if not for the suffocating cold and darkness, both only slightly alleviated by the lantern, but I could have handled that. Oh God. This death trap had been tested dozens of times, and now it fails from pressure? For me? I'd already pulled the line half a dozen times before I did it with intent. The capsule slowed, then stopped, and finally began to rise again. Just as I was certain I was as scared as a human could possibly get. A second life-threatening bang resonated through the chamber and catapulted me into previously unknown horror. This time from above. I felt the capsule drift downward, fearing the chains had been severed, only to feel it jolt as it caught on the chains. Before I could consider the implications, the chamber tilted back slowly, and a massive deep burgundy flesh covered the window. I didn't know what it was until it pulled downward to reveal fingers. Fingers that were now trying to pull the window off. Pressure hadn't made the dent. I'd heard stories of sea folk, but never believed them. If they were dangerous on the surface, down here had to be worse. I slammed my hand into the wall next to the window, trying to scare it off. It pulled its hand back for a moment, then it spoke. No, spoke isn't right. I couldn't hear anything, only understood what it wanted me to. It was curious. Nothing like me had ever made it down this far. It didn't ask questions, only stated things I already knew and it definitely shouldn't have. It walked through the months leading up to this, the minimal knowledge I had of the expedition, all while trying its best to get into the capsule. But the world felt too distant to notice. The sound of metal creaking snapped me back to reality. The thing seemed surprised too, as if it was only now understanding something, and relayed what I can only translate as, oh. The seam in the middle of the dent was leaking. Before I could jump to action, I was knocked down by another quake of the capsule. The thing outside had released the chain and let the coffin settle back down. The bubbles must have scared it off. It probably had never seen them before living down this deep. It's the only thing that made sense. I scrambled to my feet and covered the leak, praying it would hold. The thing had stopped speaking, but the fleeting haze from when it did lingered. And then, with a small lurch, the capsule began to rise unencumbered. I shone the lantern through the window, trying to get a better look at the creature as I drifted upward. It was beautiful in the way that a burning building is, and made me feel about the same. I hadn't noticed I'd been shaking. Only when I collapsed on the wooden boards of the ship did I wheeze a sigh of relief. I swear 2 feet of water flooded out with me. I learned later on one of the cabin boys discovered a smear of mucus in the shape of a 3-fingered hand outside of the dent. Exploratory traps and trawls from the trench had been coming up mangled and empty, covered in similar slime for months. The coffin was just another container of food to be opened. After the warnings of what I'd seen were overlooked and expeditions were to carry on after repairs were made, I took matters into my own hands. Something I now regret. You can't slow progress. It was only a matter of time before someone built something better. All I could do was take a different approach. It made me rethink things. Hearing other tales of encounters with sea folk and experiencing more myself made me realize my first one wasn't an attempt on my life. I no longer think they were trying to eat me, but I also don't think it was a misunderstanding. The answer to what they did want still eludes me. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't keep me up at night.